I break this pattern in my relationships?
Hey, Tyler.
Brannon, how are you doing? You said it with such energy today.
Oh, dude, I'm worn out. It's a long weekend of family parties.
Yeah, we had a ton of people all weekend long. It was really good.
It was great. I mean, you were the social butterfly. You won't stop chatting with everybody.
Oh, Brannon, you know me. Like so Brannon is actually in our family, like when you look at family roles, Brannon is the mascot. So
No,
everything revolves around Brannon's house. So we went to his house and trashed his place, ate his food, and I just kind of made an appearance. So it's really Brannon. He's the glue that
whatever.
holds it all together.
Whatever.
So
Um, it was good though. Just seeing everybody and checking in with everyone. So yeah, we got great family.
it's good to have mom and dad home. Our mom and dad just got back from an 18-month church mission to Papua New Guinea.
Wow.
And so they're home, and I think they're excited to be home, even though they're missing the people that they grew to love out there. So, welcome home, mom and dad.
Yeah. Then we got Thanksgiving around the corner. So the eating and the family parties just continue. Here we go.
There you go.
Football, family parties, and eating. That's America for you. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah,
So
man.
um well, let's dive in here. So we have one of our favorite people with us today. And I just want to remind people, if you're watching on YouTube, please comment. Please tell Bob here how awesome he is. This is his, I believe, third time on the show, Bob. Yeah. Um, so yeah, we're just gonna dig in and see where he's at and what's going on with him and talk about the different patterns going on with him. So, Bob, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, man.
If you want to just kind of fill us in since the last time we talked to you and tell us what's going on with you, that'd be awesome.
That'd be great. So just a real quick story. I'm now 83. I did the retreat, the Rising Sun retreat, when I was 81, I think, and it was a great experience. Really enjoyed it, and particularly getting to know the group and you two guys and what's going on there. And then had the opportunity to come on the show about a year after that, and then another year after that, back in May this year, and this is the third time. Background real quickly is that married for we'll be married 60 years in June next year,
Wow.
and it's been a good relationship. We got three good sons out of that, and now three granddaughters, and they're it's a great thing. And we have great family on both sides of our family, and so and we I've had a very successful life as a professor, and my wife's had a successful life as a hospital chaplain. So that's all the the outside, the good stuff. But inside has been really rough, and the roughness basically it had two anchor points. One was back in 1980 19 sorry 1978 or 79. I got into a secret a 2 year very intimate relationship, and my wife knew nothing about it. And after 2 years, I fessed up to it and struggled. We struggled with it. It was very hard. We struggled with it, and we actually moved out of that town, and then uh, and came to a new home where we've been ever since. And we really I mean, she didn't throw me out. She did make a point that if that would ever happen again, it would be over. And so and I've never violated it. I've never had a relationship, a sexual relationship with anybody since then. But after really working hard on this, getting into SA and a lot of therapy and all, I fell back into pornography, which had been a pattern before my affair. And that went on until about 3 years ago. And again, and at this point, actually, my wife discovered it. I didn't come fess up in that. But it was totally devastating for her. She had no idea that had been going on. And so the whole idea of, wait a minute, who are you? I thought I knew you. The two life issue was what it was. So that was where it was. And I went to a program which was really successful for me. I really have not acted out, have had and not been on pornography for 3 years since the program, and have really, I think, been able to really come to some real understanding of what that was about for me, what that is about for me. Obviously, the lust stuff isn't over, but to understand that and rejoin SA and find it extremely successful, and then also just constant therapy, and then but the important part is Mary Lou got into some really good therapy too. So that's kind of what that background is. What happened was at the end of the period in Colorado, there was a women's group that was going on at the same time, meeting like 4 times, and that's when she really began to understand what was going on for her really during the marriage, and it was betrayal, trauma. And the trauma would come in terms of my outbursts, my getting angry. And that led to all kinds of issues for her about how she was treated and objectified, and all of that came out. And that's really the trauma that she's been trying to heal. And the boundary 3 years ago was that, hey, you can't be in my bed for 30 days. That was the boundary. And I remember just feeling real resentment for that, feeling incredible empathy for and sorrow for what I put her through, empathy for the trauma, but the boundary somehow just that as much as I could understand it really was a resentment that was just really hard for me to overcome. Anyway, that boundary's never been taken off, and still to this day, I am not in that bed. So that's kind of the whole background thing. So when I had the first session with y'all, it was great, and you pointed to this deeper understanding of self, your self-identity. The second session really got much clearer on that for me, and obviously in terms of the spirituality of that, that this need for me to have my needs met by my wife rather than by myself and my God, and this relationship, this loving relationship with God, that is that which is empowering to me and who I am, and how, when I'm that way, then I'm there for her, and the relationship is not a taking relationship. It's not a dependency relationship that I just need her so badly. Okay, so that's and that last time when we got together in May, that really centered that, and so the whole thing was just growing in masculinity, in the sense of, by masculinity meaning being able to, hey, stand on my own, to be able to be there in trouble, and to be able to be somebody who reaches out and not just takes. So that's kind of the masculinity definition, and that was very important for me. I think always as a little child, I was a third child. My brother and sister were 12 and 9 years older than I am, so I was kind of an only child, and there was, wonderful parents, but I think the world kind of, at least I thought the world revolved around me, and I don't know that that's ever really changed. And so that's kind of what the issue is. Specifically, where I am today has to do with the fact that we've really made some really good progress in the last 6 months or so. At one point, Mary Lou said, for the first time, there was an issue we went through, and for the first time, she said, "Wow," she said, "I really feel like you're there for me," and it was the first time that statement had ever been made. It was very hopeful for her, and so okay, so then. And I wasn't particularly aware that what I did was that phenomenal, but anyway, but then, so what I was specifically looking at today is since that time, there's been a really interesting cycle, And the cycle is that, particularly maybe after therapy, I get really clear on where I need to go, what's going on here. And I come back and I am open and generous and showing up. And here's the key. Then all of a sudden we'll sit down and Mary Lou will go back to maybe something 2 weeks ago. And she'll say, I just need to share with you how, what happened when you made a remark that I found really sarcastic, how that got to me, and how when I told you that, how you got all upset and you just said, hey, come on, I'm doing my best, and you got angry. You didn't just peacefully say, oh, I know how you feel. It was, just reacting. And once I do that reaction, all kinds of things go into place. She to me, what goes on is, oh my God, the clock has been reset. And by reset, I'm talking about being back together, being back in the bed, being back emotionally, not necessarily, sexually. That's got some work to do, but just like the embrace that we have. I have to initiate the embrace, and she's fine with it, but I have to ask her. I say, hey, can I hug you? She'll say, yeah, give me a hug. And then it'll be a nice hug, and then maybe a kiss, but that's it. There's no more, and I just find myself just craving, her to hold me and her to love me and her to, just be very passionate with me. And again, I want to emphasize it's with me, it's that's this big need that gets up. And so what that does is kind of get me to the point of saying, this isn't working. And for her sake, everything I'm doing is not moving her along. It'd be better if I were out of here, if we had a separation. And, and to me, moving out is a preparation for divorce. Now, I mean, trying to imagine divorce at 60 years and with all the, family we've got and the grandchildren. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But that's kind of what's going on inside. And so then usually we'll have a session and I'll get some insights into what's going on. So where I am right now, when I signed up, it was kind of in a desperation of that cycle. And since then, I've gotten into a buddy actually from the program out in Colorado. A buddy and I stay together, and he said, wow, he says, I've just come across this book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. I'd heard a lot about it. I'd heard about the book, and I start reading it, and I can't get over it. I mean, every single line, I go, oh my God, my God, my God, and I'm underlining it, and I'm maybe about a third of the way into it, but it's like, wow, this is a hope. I got this great hope that now I'm going to find the answer, and I'm real serious about that. I just really feel like this is the gold mine to go into. But I've had this before. I've had it. The pattern is, hey, I really have a, like maybe after a conversation with you all, it's just really clear where I've got to go. So the big issues are control, the ability to surrender. Surrender is the biggest problem in SA. I just find surrender incredibly hard. That third step. And by that I simply mean, like my sense is, God shouldn't have to take care of this. I should. I mean, come on, surrender my pornography. Stop pornography. Don't expect God to stop it for you. Don't tell God, you're out of control. It's like you got to stand up. That God made you. So that I never quite get the surrender thing straight. Secondly, one of the issues that I think is gotten real clear, particularly in this the book I'm telling you about, is this whole issue of attachment. There seems to be a real attachment issue, and I'm concerned now whether that that narcissism is under that attachment, and whether I'm the new thing for me now is am I narcissistic, or am I a narcissist? And if there is a diagnosis, and maybe that's where I need to go, if there's a diagnosis of, hey, you are a narcissist, okay, then let's accept that and treat it, as opposed to, hey, you've got you've got tendencies that are narcissistic. And you know, what's underneath those. So anyway, I think that's pretty much where it is right now, guys. Let me stop and maybe you can ask some questions that clarify better. Sorry, this is kind of long.
Yep. Tyler, you want to start?
Yeah, let's just get this out of the way really quickly, and then we can get into the real content of stuff. You are not narcissistic, Bob. So that one's clear. We're done with that one. Okay. like Brandon and I've had enough interaction with you that we know that you are not narcissistic. I mean, addiction has narcissistic tendencies, sure. And you got to go to work on those. And some of those tendencies might actually be playing a role in this cycle that you find yourself in.
Yeah.
But I don't think calling yourself or labeling yourself a narcissist is going to do anybody any good, because it's just not true.
Tyler, can I just add to that? And I'm sure you've seen this a few times. And I'm going to say this to you, Tyler, so Bob can hear it. I've witnessed where Mr. Nice Guys oftentimes believe that they're narcissistic.
They have to, because someone told them they were, and they have to agree with everybody.
Yeah, and it's not it's not that they're it's like such the opposite of narcissism. It's like it's not that they're narcissistic, it's that they don't truly know who they are as a man. And so a wife in fear, and you know, I use this term cautiously. A wife in fear and stuck in trauma in a way is gaslighting back to the Mr. Nice Guy of saying what a horrible piece of crap he is, and then he's starting to believe that I'm a narcissist as a result. And so guys that are so far from narcissistic actually start thinking they're narcissistic. You're not the first person, Bob, that I've seen this with. So, anyways, that's just I wanted to just add that.
Yeah, let's get into now the cycle itself, which is interesting because if I understand it right, I just want to make sure I map this out. You'll do something to kind of get yourself grounded into like, okay, this is who I am. This is the direction I need to go. You'll go home from an appointment or something you read, and you'll apply now this new sort of groundedness to the relationship, and it stays really good for a while. And then something happens where you realize that you're missing connection with your wife, or you're longing for something, or you want some physical intimacy. And then that starts to become an obsession. You spiral downhill, you lose touch with your grounding. And then she feels upset because you're now doing something that feels weak or blaming or manipulative, or like the old addiction cycle. And then she brings it to you, and then you get hopeless and want to go have a divorce or disappear or get frustrated.
Yeah, and I just exactly, Tyler. But I want to say that underneath that, and I didn't mention this before, and what always what triggers me when Mary Lou responds, like, you know, wow, you know, this really hurt me. What triggers me, and I'll say to her, I'll just say, yeah, I blew it again. I don't know what to do. I'm inadequate. There is a basic sense of inadequacy. And there's some grounding for it, in the sense that this could sound very simplistic, but I can't spell. And that may sound too simple, but it isn't. It's plagued me. Memory is always been very bad. I in high school, I couldn't be in plays because I could never memorize the lines, you know. And I've compensated for that. You know, my school grades were terrible until I went for my PhD, and it was fine. You know, that's I know that sounds crazy, but the point is that the way I do compensation for that works. But underneath, there's still like when there's still this sense of inadequacy. So when Mary Lou says, you know, hey, you know, when you said that, I went, oh God, you know, I blew it again. And there's just,
Bob,
inadequacy. Sorry.
Bob, I want to ask you,
Yeah.
who's adequate?
Well,
Can you give me an example?
Yeah. So
someone who's totally adequate.
Yesterday, I had to do a presentation at church with a guy who's our educator. He's a brilliant young guy, terrific guy, you know, and he did the first part, and I just sat there and marveled. I thought, holy cow, look at how he synthesized that document. Look how he expressed it to the people, And then so I'm just really aware of my inability to
But
do
but
that.
but
Go ahead.
I'll bet
Yeah,
you, and I don't know this guy at all.
yeah.
I'll bet you this guy goes home and maybe he leaves a lot of garbage in his car, so it's a mess a little bit, and maybe he gets defensive with his wife over some certain things, and there's certain. I doubt this dude's perfect. I
No,
I
but
don't I don't know.
in terms of where I'm trying to go with that, and maybe I'm missing your point, Brandon, but like then I'm up next, and I don't have that capacity. I don't have that capacity to do it the way he did
But
it.
Bob, what you're doing is you're using comparison to
Yep.
prove this notion true that you are inadequate. And one question I just wanted to ask you, everything you just went through, I just wanted to ask you, like, have you ever considered that you're okay? Like
Yeah,
right now, that you're just fine?
I have. I think I have a handicap, and I don't know that I've really, been able to accept that handicap. Maybe that's part of it.
You're a PhD professor who's raised 3 children and been married for 60 years. And I'm not
And you're in
discounting.
recovery.
Yeah, and working recovery. And I'm not discounting your struggles. Like yes, but what I'm saying is we all have struggles. And it sounds like you're spinning your wheels trying to prove yourself
Yeah.
again and again and again
Yep.
with
Yep.
with Mary Lou as the judge and jury,
Right.
constantly being like, see, nope, there's your failure. Yep, we're back to square one. There it goes again. There it goes again. And I think it would be almost uncomfortable for you to just be like, I am good. Like I really am, as I am right now, as a man, as a human, like I'm amazing and I am so beyond adequate. Um, like it's yeah, I got my little quirks, I got my things, I got Bob, I got my own ADD stuff. I could go on and on about my things, right?
Yeah.
Um, but also I'm pretty awesome. And I really love myself. And like, can you get yourself there, right? That's what's keeping you in this pattern over and over again.
Right. Yeah, because what I catch in the pattern is that, oh my God, if Mary Lou doesn't say I'm good, then I'm not good. I can't just separate that and say, hey, that woman is feeling bad. I understand that, but I am who I am, and I'm going to take care of her. I'm okay. That
Mm-hmm.
that 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 somehow doesn't arise, and it's such a knee-jerk reaction, when it happens. I just feel it, I just feel all the center of myself dropping out when I mean I thought everything was going good. And of course, for me, I expect, hey, we're settled, everything's fine. Hey, she'll probably say, hey, I think we're done. Come on back in bed tonight. Like and yeah, exactly. But the point is that it's like, you know, I have to realize, hey, I don't have any control over that. And I know that, but, and that's where you are. It's how do I just maintain who I am during that time and not get fatalistic and say, hey, I really got to get out of this relationship.
It's interesting that the cycle itself that you just described is part of the process of reinforcing the unhealthy and wrong belief.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So because my wife now has something that she feels because it's finally safe enough for her to bring up something that happened 2 weeks ago, and she feels safe enough to bring it up with me,
Right.
then it hits me, and then I go into my shame of inadequacy rather than
Right.
seeing it for what it is, which
Right.
is she feels safe enough to have a hard discussion with me. And then you're using some different forms of denial to reinforce the wrong belief and keep yourself stuck. And those forms of denial are comparison, as Brannon said, hopeless helplessness, all is lost. Look, we just had a rough time in our marriage again, and my wife's mad at me again. Look at all the work I've done. I'm going to throw it all out. Self judgment and black and white thinking, all or nothing. Instead of just being able to be in that space and say, and here's the thing that I think is missing too inside of this is there's still an element of you, and this is why that nice guy book is really resonating with you. in the sense that like there is nothing wrong in the pattern that you're in to have a day where you're really drawn to your wife physically, or that you want to be close to her, you want to sleep in the same bed, or you want to have sex with her. There is nothing wrong with you being that kind of a man who has those feelings and who can express those things and can still handle the word no. But and then when she says no, you don't go like, oh, yeah, I shouldn't have, like, you're right, I shouldn't pursue that, or I'm inadequate, or I'm not good enough. It's more of like, okay, like I still feel that way, and that's okay, and I'm here, and I'm for you, but I'm also being honest with who I am too. And I think you do yourself a disservice because you back off on who you are too sometimes.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah,
and
that
you,
you named it. I mean, that's what, when I talk about masculinity, that ability to be able to say, "Hey, okay," you know, but be able to say, "Hey, you know, I'd really like to get back in bed with you. I really can't wait for the time when, you know, we're close again." Be able to just say what's going on for me, you know, and yet be able to hear, "No, not yet," and, "Hey, I get it. Okay." You know,
Um, I
it,
want
it's
to.
I can do the "okay, I get it." What I can't do is say where I am.
Yeah, we're missing the like. I think we're trying to get to the wrong point here, and I'm going to read a quote, and this is like the most famous quote ever, and it's so random because it's everyone attributes it to Nelson Mandela, and it's actually from a woman named Marianne Williamson who wrote a book about she was just commenting on A Course in Miracles, and in her book she wrote this, and Mandela quoted her, and she said, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest," and I want to read the whole quote because the entire quote is important. Oftentimes, it's just the beginning that we hear. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So, what do you hear there, Bob?
Well, there you did a great EMDR, you know. So here I am. I'm in a department store. My mother, I'm probably about 5, and she's going around looking at dresses, and I'm kind of wandering around, and there's a mirror there, and I start looking into the mirror, and I'm just looking, and there's a woman walks by and said, "Hey," um, something about, "Hey, that, you know, you're a really handsome guy. I see why you're looking in the mirror." Oh my God. You know, it's like I can't look in the mirror.
At that
That's
young of an age.
where it was.
Yeah.
And you know, so much of that resonated with me in terms of saying, if I'm going to be brilliant, then I'm going to put other people down. I can't, you know, I that so you know,
But Bob, why at that young of an age were you already self-rejecting? Like your exile part is somewhere in there. Like something happened, some fear, something told you that you are not okay. And you, with your wife, you've spent years in this pattern of trying to prove that you're okay,
right.
trying to show her that you're loved, lovable,
Yeah.
right? But there's something really scary there that you know that you believe that that's who you are because you've had certain experiences.
And my stomach is just really tight. I mean, I just feel that you're really on to a real nerve that's deep down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, that's the to add to Brandon's question. It's like it wasn't just the experience that the 3-year-old or however old you were had. It was that he was already cued in to have somebody's compliment be a reinforcement of his shame,
Right. Right. Right.
right? Like where did that 3-year-old learn that he had to
I just,
take a compliment and somehow figure out how to make it him not worthy, him
Yeah.
inadequate?
Tyler, I'm back there at that age, and I'm as you're talking, I'm saying, don't say worthy of that praise. Don't say that. Don't say that. I
Well,
don't.
and look what you've created in your marriage. And yeah, Mary Lou has her part in it, but you have created a system that gives you little bits of like, oh, good, I'm okay, and then proof that you're not. And so you have create this belief that you have inside, it creates the whole thing that you're living in right now. And Mary Lou's probably comfortable with it. Bob's going to be Mr. Nice Guy. He's going to be in performance. I have all the power.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you're both comfortable in it because that's what you believe. So if you actually deal with this deep down exile part that was there from a very young age, then all of a sudden the systems will start to change and go away. But if you don't deal with it, you said, I'm feeling it in my gut. It's like in your soul, it's in there. If you don't deal with that, Bob, then you will continue to go back out into the world and continue to create these patterns again and again.
Can I ask you, Bob, to just envision something for a minute? Go back to that 3-year-old standing in the mirror and just picture this. Maybe it's hard to do, but picture this, that it would be impossible for you to reject the compliment, and instead you just be able to authentically agree with that compliment. How would it look and feel differently?
It's hard to do that, Tyler. I mean, I'm trying to relive, being there.
Just
And
sit with it for a second and just
yeah,
pretend that you couldn't believe that you were unworthy or that you didn't look good, but that you maybe just all you could do was just accept it. And yeah, you've got that pit in your stomach right now, but what happens if you sit with that?
I mean, I'm back there and I'm just struggling with that woman, and she was very genuine. I know that, she wasn't making
Yeah.
a backhanded criticism or something. And it's just like, I'm so struggling to be able to say to her, hey, thank you.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
wow.
That's okay. You struggle with it, and that's the work that Brannon's talking about as part of this process. And so, and what ends up happening, and I wonder, Bob, I just ask you this: is does that pit in your stomach become fully present when your wife starts to talk to you about her problems again?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it the same physiology?
I think so. I haven't put that together, but there is what happens when she does that. I actually find it more from the stomach. I find myself going to the shoulders, and I'm just wanting to reject that, and that's where I move into anger, because I'll raise my voice, and I'll so it comes out. It does, it comes out in an anger protection. I'm going to protect that. You're not right. I'm going to protect that. And you're wrong. And you
Okay.
always say that, that.
Okay, so same physiology for a second,
Okay.
Bob, but then it moves into that rejection. That's like the self-protective part. So that's what Brannon would basically say. There's this exiled part, the 3-year-old kid that's learned something, but now there's a protective part that's coming in and saying, I can't let anybody get close to me, which is weird because you're setting your own trap now, because all you want is for your wife to say, Bob, you're such an amazing man. And the minute she says it, you'd be like, oh crap, I suck. Like, like you wouldn't be able to accept it. But I want to go back to the 3-year-old for just a second. And
Yeah.
instead of trying to change his physiology, I want to ask, what did he need in that moment that he didn't get?
That's so hard because I think I had everything, you know.
Well, he obviously didn't get something. What would have helped him to get what he needed? What did he need?
I don't know if these are thoughts or feelings that are coming right now, but my dad worked away from home, and he would be gone from Monday till Friday. And that was a big part of my growing up. And actually, I slept with my mom. during that week. I wasn't in my own bed, and she would read to me, and then I'd go to sleep. And so there was a kind of what's going on in my head, Tyler, is that somehow I don't know if this is thoughts or accurate, but I didn't have like a manly way to stand up to who I am. I felt very dominated by women, and these were my mother's friends, and and they all cooed over me. Oh, he's such a wonderful guy. He's such a wonderful guy. There was but it was always women. I never had men saying that.
Okay, one more thing, and I'm going to kick it back over to Brannon. So standing there inside of that mirror, then let's just imagine for a second, Bob, that you had somebody, a figure. It could be someone that you look up to, a mentor. It could be Brannon. I don't care who it is, standing right behind that 3-year-old. And when that lady said the compliment, the guy in the background was like, damn straight. He's a good looking kid.
I find who I want there is my brother, who was 12 years older than I was.
Okay. Well, then put him there for a minute and see how it feels to the 3-year-old.
I'm having dissonance. I'm having a hard time hearing
Yeah.
him say that, but I mean, he was always correcting me.
That's not what I said, Bob. Like,
Sorry.
you don't have to go and take him out of the relationship. I
Okay.
want Brannon there. Put Brannon
Oh,
right
Brandon.
behind that
Okay, great.
3-year-old kid.
Yeah, terrific.
Okay.
Oh,
And Brannon actually goes and like right when he gets the compliment, he puts his arm around him and is like, yeah, you are a sharp kid. Like you
wow.
are a really sharp kid. Like that's true.
On the retreat, I always found Brandon harder to connect with. I thought
No,
would
Bob,
that would
come
be
talk to me.
that would be great.
You,
Tyler, that would be great.
I think one reason why Tyler's kind of putting me there is it's Bob, Tyler, and and I'm gonna speak for Tyler, wish so badly that you could see you the way that we see you, like truly, and um, the we just think you're a warrior for truth. We think you're incredibly resilient, that you've been fighting for so many years. You're still at it at this age. And like, I think it's really uncomfortable for you to surrender into what that quote said that I said. You want to stay in control of the narrative about who you are.
Right.
You don't get to decide that. If your sons came to you and were like, well, you think I'm great, but I'm not. I suck. I'm horrible. I'm the worst. What would you say to them?
Oh no. Right.
No, yeah, your granddaughter, is
Oh, wow.
like, "God, I'm full of shame, Grandpa, and I hate myself, and I don't think I'm pretty." What would you say to her?
I mean, she called us on the way home she's the first year in college, and she called us on the train on the way home to her parents, or we called her. We had about an hour talk with her, and it was overwhelming what she talked about in terms of what she's learning about herself in college and how a lot of her problems, of ADD but more than that, her own ability to stay with something. She just poured all this out, and it was like, wow. Our our boys never did that.
She's
And
incredible, huh?
yeah, oh
Yeah.
my God. We got off the phone, and we talked to my son last night, and I said, hey, Lucy's her name. And I said, she was just incredible. I said, now I know she had a little trouble. She set the alarm wrong in the morning and didn't get up in time to get the train and had to take a bus. And he said, yeah, like, I don't think she's that good. No, Jeff, you missed the whole point. You don't know what she's like. He does, but
I want to ask you, Bob, if you don't get to say what your worth is, if Mary Lou doesn't get to determine where your worth is, if your mom and dad even don't get to decide, if dad being gone doesn't mean anything about your worth or whatever, then where do you get it? Like what is it? Is that a confusing question?
No, I know what I'm excited about, and where I feel I get my worth. And I think it's genuine. I don't, think I'm putting something on here. It's very intellectual. I mean, look at all the books. It's a deep insight. I feel that I have really deep insights into what's going on, And even
Okay.
when this fellow was giving his talk yesterday, and he was great. He was really good. And I wanted to run with that and say, yeah, but look at this, look at this, look at this. That's where I get excited. When I hear you two so often on the podcast, and you'll the dialectical thinking that you all talk about. I'm really into that. I'm really,
Mm-hmm.
wow, I have a deep understanding, I think, of how important that is for us, to be able to be a people that can talk to each other, that can be creative, so
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying, Brandon, I don't know if this is the answer you're looking for or not, but that's where I get excited. And I feel fine about myself. I don't feel like I know the world and I'm the answer to it. It's not that. I feel like I'm really contributing, that I've really got, I've got some insights that are helpful, not just or self-affirming, but I want that kind of engagement with people.
I wonder, and this could get a little deep here, but
Okay.
um, your value, is that different than your worth?
Pardon me.
Is your value different than your worth?
Wow. I'm getting a hard time seeing the difference between the two words, worth and value.
Well, let me give you an example. You're talking about like you like to step into concepts and see how people work, and that's
Right.
awesome. That
Yeah.
like you have been given talents, you've been
Yeah.
given
Okay.
so you can bring value to the table
Got it.
when it comes to being a professor or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
Bringing that value to the table, does that therefore give you your worth?
And I think you're right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? I
No, I
volunteer.
do. I hadn't put that together. It's like, you know, th- when that's not there, when I'm not doing that, you know, I don't see the worth.
Bob, I volunteer with disabled kids every week, and just all along the spectrum in terms of just how developmentally disabled they are. And I'll tell you this, their worth is not dependent upon their intellect.
Right.
It's not dependent upon
Right.
their athletic prowess, anything, nothing, right?
Teaching capabilities.
Like you can feel their souls, like holy cow, like their worth is, they are beautiful, so beautiful. And do you see the difference?
Well, I do, and we had a fourth child, Mark, and Mark only lived a year. Mark was Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, the worth that I feel for him. Anytime I see a Down syndrome kid, I just want to embrace them,
Yeah.
because the worth. I know what you're talking about. The worth is like, wow. I mean,
Does
he's
that hold
so
does
worth.
that hold true for Bob Gorman? Does that hold true for you? Do you have to have things that you bring to the table in order to then have worth?
Wow. No, I've got to be able to spell. I've got to be able to give a lecture. I've got to
Yeah.
be able to write an article. I've got to be able to, be brilliant in a lecture. I mean,
Yeah. You
That's
gotta you gotta
that's
prove yourself.
yeah.
that's that you said the word earlier, Bob, and that's what we're talking about with surrender. You're
Mhm.
not that's a big piece of what Bob has to learn to surrender is that belief that there needs to be a performance in order to find his worth. It's not surrendering that God will take away his addiction or surrendering that God will do this. It's surrendering that belief over and over again. And the beautiful thing that you have is that about every week to 2 weeks, you lose touch with your own heart. You put your wife in the space of God again, and you feel that pit in your stomach. And every time you feel that pit in your stomach now, it's not, oh no, all is lost. It's like, oh, good, I get to surrender into the love of God. So now you're right where you should be instead of oh no, how I've been at this for so long and this never works. And man, I can't wait. Like, I hope the cycle plays itself out every 3 days instead of every week, Bob.
So you can practice.
So you get to practice every
Wow.
time you get that pit in your stomach, you're gonna surrender yourself into the love of God.
The value and worth thing, I've never done that before. I mean, I was thrown when you asked that. What's the difference? And like, oh, and when you got to when I got to Mark, our baby.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
whew, that's tough.
yeah.
Mark was worth so much.
It's you can't even describe it. You
He,
can't put it in
oh,
words.
my father was just real quick. My father was retiring at the time, and my father, who I didn't have, he's retiring at the time, and he said, "I'm I'm devoting myself to Mark," and he was there every day, down on the floor with Mark, and there was all this about, well, Mongoloid or Down syndrome kids can't do this. He said, no, no, Mark's fine, and I wasn't there at the hospital when he died, but Mary Lou and my dad were. Uh, I mean, I don't mind crying because it's really expressing what you're talking about, the
Mhm.
worth of that baby.
Mhm.
Whew. I mean,
Yeah.
what he meant to my dad, what he meant to my wife. Man, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and God feels the same about you, Bob.
Pardon me.
God feels the same about you.
Wow, wow.
Yeah. But in order to really know that, Bob, you have to let go of control and you have to surrender. Like that's what the key is here is you have to um f- like fall in the arms of God and let God hold you. And stop being that a 5-year-old in the mirror saying, no, 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 I suck. I'm in control here. I'm gonna tell myself what I am and what I'm not. You would never say those words to Mark. You would never say you're not, you're not good enough. You're not
Oh,
okay,
no way.
right? No
Oh,
way, right? So you need
Yeah.
to stop saying them to Bob.
Bob, we're about out of time here. I can
man,
see
this
that
is incredible.
there's some stuff moving through you now. I would love to hear what's moving through everything below your shoulders.
Well, the stomach is expanding. It's not tight. That's the first thing I feel. Not that the stomach should expand. It's pretty expanded as it is, but it's just that there's a kind of a restfulness down there that isn't trying to grab and hold on. The shoulders are. I just noticed the shoulders are way back. They're not up. They're back. There's
What would you name that emotion right now, Bob? What would you name
I'd
it?
say peace,
Okay.
peacefulness.
Okay. You got a little taste of surrender and the fruit that it yielded for you is a moment of peace.
And quiet. That's the other thing that hits me is quiet.
There you go.
Can you
You,
tap into that when Mary Lou is angry at you? In the moment where the judge and jury of Bob's worth is present, Mary Lou, which she's not, and she knows that. Can you stop and tap into that and be like, I'm okay? In fact, it's okay that she's going to go through cycles of getting upset and loving you and all the things. I'm okay. I'm okay regardless. I'm not a narcissist. I'm not the world's worst person. Really, I'm okay.
Yeah, and what's going through my mind, Brandon, when you say that is I am okay. It's not like I'm doing okay.
Oh
By
yeah.
that, yeah,
Okay.
but by that I mean it's not, oh, this is what I've done, so I'm okay. It's no, no,
Yes.
no.
No, no, no.
I am
Regardless of what I've done.
I'm Bob or Bobby as I was as a baby. This I am okay.
Yes. Bob, before we wrap up, I just want to share some of the comments coming through.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, the one comment, I love this. Your heart is so beautiful, Bob. Thank you for sharing. I feel you, Bob. This story plays a role with me too. Bob, thank you for sharing your story about your son, Mark, and your father. So it's beautiful. It's good stuff.
Bob, you made an impact on somebody today just by letting your guard down and being yourself. So thank you. Thanks for coming on, Bob. We love
Guys, I
you.
can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you both.
Yeah. Well, we love you too, Bob.
Thanks, guys.
You are a true testament to um the whole principle in Christianity of enduring to the end. Here you are, 60 years into a marriage, still fighting like crazy to be a better man. How awesome is it? And I think Brad and I are keying in now on the fact that your work, the actual work you now have, is to stop working, start accepting. So anyway, thanks, Bob.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate you, Bob.
All the best.
Are you guys, if this was helpful, please share it with anybody. And if leave a comment, you can leave it on YouTube, you can leave it in a review on the podcast, and just